All right, we are live for another episode of the Bitcoin Breakdown. Bitcoin still holding at about 6,500. How are you guys doing today? Got Brennan, Chris, and Jason. Got everyone on today.
Yeah, the whole crew.
Doing well.
Pretty uneventful weekend. Wasn't chasing around kids like Brennan was. Did a little bit
Man.
of work here.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's kind of chasing around somewhat of a kid. I got a puppy over the weekend, so that was fun.
Oh, you did?
You know, I severely underestimated the amount of work a 2-month-old puppy requires.
To wake up in the middle of the night for a dog, you're like, come on.
I know. Well, it was only like twice, so the last few nights. But yeah, a little like lab pit bull mix. I found at the shelter.
Nice.
So
Lover and a hater in one. I like your style.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he looks more lab, but yeah, we're not allowed to have pit bulls here, so we'll just
chewing on the wires down there.
No, he's just sleeping by my feet. Luckily, so I tried to tire him out before this, so he just slept the whole time. But what kind of news we got today? I know we shared this news. We're always talking about exchanges just because they are like the banks of this right now with banks not being in the game right now. You have Coinbase wants to be too big to fail. That was a pretty interesting headline.
You want to share that video or that?
Yeah, I'll share it.
Yeah, I want to read up on that.
But Coinbase wants to be too big to fail, huh?
That's a great title.
Yeah, the irony in that statement is very rich. It's good.
Chris, so break it down for us. What was he basically saying?
Oh, he's just saying, that their vision is just to become the be all end all of anything crypto. He stated that their goal is to essentially be the global bank for cryptocurrency. Like that was legitimately what he said, which is
Centralized too?
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, it's 100% centralized, and it is the epitome of the exact thing that cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular, was built to address, and they're trying to take it right back to that. So I don't know. It was
confusing to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just having that mentality about it is a little bit concerning, I think, because if you think of it, that's kind of what's directing their entire efforts, is that's their end goal. And so it's almost like it's moving counter to what cryptocurrency is for in spirit. So I don't know, we'll see how it goes, but I understand their idea that if they're too big, that it makes it much harder for people to not get into the space, right? Like they are the quintessential way of getting into cryptocurrency. So in that sense, it's good, but at the same time, you're fully admitting you're trying to build yourself as a linchpin in the system. And so it makes you a bigger and a bigger and a bigger target. So if we see something go down with Coinbase, the fallout from that, if they secure this position of being the global cryptocurrency bank, is astronomical. It is worrisome. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on this, but it rubbed me the wrong way.
Oh, you have to read into it. I mean, I think of like Digital Group. Those guys have a little bit different approach. I mean, they kind of wanted to be the Warren Buffett of crypto, and they've pretty much done a good job already between all the different companies that they're already involved in. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but for one exchange to try to be, first of all, it's just an exchange. Like, they're going to have so much competition.
And then taking a look at these figures too, they honestly look pretty good. Looks good for Coinbase and for the whole space in general. I mean, for the interest. I mean, it looks like it's stalled, but I mean, compared to the price, usually when you see any other trend when it comes to Bitcoin or crypto, you see the price of Bitcoin spike and then drop, cut in half. You see Google Trends, you see trading volume, you see everything. Sign-ups on a lot of exchanges and a lot of other like dApps and everything like that. Decentralized applications drop, in correlation to the price of Bitcoin. Where you see something like Coinbase, stalls, but it definitely doesn't drop. Definitely doesn't slow down too much. I think hitting that 25 million Coinbase users, I think is absolutely incredible.
I wonder how quick till it's 100. That'll be
I know,
100
right?
million what next year?
Next run up, I'd
Oh
assume.
yeah, all we need is another little bump in the price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of funny that too big to fail, and you both traded Brennan and Jason. You guys are both in the financial world during that whole too big to fail, right?
Well, Brennan was really close, right, bud?
Yeah, it was pretty
Front
deep in
point.
the trenches. Yeah, it was a unique it was a very unique time frame. I was I was in a meeting or at a conference last week, and there were a lot of guys, a couple exchanges that were up talking about their product, and there's one guy in the crowd um, who constantly kept bringing up the decentralization of things, and he was just such a naysayer of anything centralized. And I kind of look at it from two different perspectives. Like, one, I see the beauty in decentralization, and I kind of applaud it, but I also think the massive run up in companies that have come online this year within the blockchain are largely going to be centralized. And it doesn't mean that their product is bad or the idea is bad. It's just I think kind of like this article, the too big to fail. Like there's certain applications for businesses that decentralization makes a hell of a lot of sense for, and then there's other ones that are still going to do fantastically well that are centralized. But I think as you get a larger chunk of the, let's just say, U.S. population involved in things, in a market like this where people aren't terribly educated or coming up to speed, they feel a level of security if there is some sort of centralization, or if there's something goes wrong, that there's a backup to it, to the safety of their money. And just like anything else, I don't put 100% of my money in crypto, but I certainly trade a chunk of it, in there. But that's a high beta portion of my portfolio that I want exposed, to certain things. But I do think it's pretty astonishing, their growth, especially my lackluster opinion of certain things that they offer from a user end. But maybe I'm just wrong, or maybe I just like to see different things.
Well, and the other thing is that it's almost like the current setup that Coinbase has is required, right? So if we look at Coinbase as a trusted source in the space for that gateway to fiat through banking, like traditional banking, it's a 100% necessary element to have. It's one thing to say, okay, well, once you have money in the crypto space, then I would say, get far away from any centralized exchange if at all possible. The options aren't really there right now because of a variety of issues, user friendliness of decentralized exchanges, liquidity, all of those problems. But I think that the way that it's set up now, you can't avoid this, right? Like, you can't have a decentralized entity that banks are going to trust and allow you to send funds.
But again, like, the thing that drives me crazy about Coinbase, like, say I have a new user and I just log into Coinbase and, like, all right, I tie it to my my checking account, and I can start pulling in some cash, which I've done multiple times from Coinbase. The user experience just drives me crazy. It's like, do I want to buy the few little coins that they offer? But they don't even have the common courtesy to show me, like, okay, I want to buy $5,000 worth of Bitcoin, or whatever the max will let you, right? Maybe it's like 3 or something, it's not that much, but I want to pull that kind of money out of my bank account, and I want to go and I want to buy some Bitcoin or Ethereum with it. It didn't even show me an inside price. It's just like, you get a price. It doesn't even tell you where it is on the user interface of pulling cash from my wallet to buy something. They just give me a price, and I'm stuck with whatever they give me. I don't have any option to kind of work that money into the into the marketplace however I'd like to. Yeah. And then once I do buy it, then I'm stuck for like a week or so without being able to touch it.
Yeah.
And I come from a world of
5% spread right out the beginning.
Yeah, like, this is a highly volatile market. Come on, guys. Like, one, give me an option of maybe, like, I want to buy at this level. Don't just say you're stuck at it and then lock my money up for a week. Again, we come from a world of T+3. How many days do you need to settle something? Like, it's coming right out of my checking account. There's not a whole hell of a lot of, back office operations that really need to happen. Like, why do you have to hold my money for so long? There's so many things about Coinbase driving me crazy.
Yeah.
But it is an easy way of bringing cash in the market, and then I think they got the loudest footprint when it comes to just the general public.
Well, those are good points. T+3.
Yeah, it's hard to deny that the effect they've had on the space. I think a lot of the run up, and I don't think a lot of the people that are involved in the space now are only here because of how easy Coinbase has made it.
Yes.
And I hate praising any sort of something that's deemed trying to be too big to fail, obviously, especially in something like crypto. But you can't deny that they've nailed that user interface for the retail users. But
Nailed
I
it.
think,
It lacks so much when it comes to the end user friendly things. Jeez.
oh, I know. Yeah, for sure. It's also important to remember that you're waiting for that week and a half to settle or whatever that the time you're just talking about. And all that time, you just pretty much have an IOU for Bitcoin. You actually don't own any Bitcoin. And a lot of people rely on an exchange. It's kind of interesting. I heard people treat like the word exchange as a noun when it should be looked at as more of a verb, because you should be using an exchange to exchange and nothing more. Just use an exchange, get off, and you're done. Don't use the exchange as a place to store your funds. It makes no sense. And they have this Coinbase bundle, which I think is I think it's a good idea. Yeah, I guess for some people that want to feel like they need to have that, hey, I'm hedged in crypto now, right? I got the leading, based on market cap. But
You
we all
get them
know,
for $25.
yeah, I know, right? and we know that market cap is bullshit. I mean, how
People spend more at happy hour than they do in getting more to that kind of a thing.
yeah, it's just a lot of things, that some market cap really, means nothing. So what are you buying? You're buying Ripple in there. All right. So you're buying a long-term bundle that includes Ripple. Already that doesn't make sense. And then another fact is it's still an IOU. Until you actually have that in your own wallet, you don't own the Bitcoin or Ethereum or Ripple. You don't own the Ripple at all, but you don't own the Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything until it's in your wallet.
Yeah.
So I think it just encourages people, but I think they need to do a better job encouraging people, I guess, to take that next step and educate themselves.
Right.
But I guess that's why we're here, right? Don't use an exchange to store anything. Use it to exchange, and then use the wallet to store it. But what you want to pull up the Bitcoin price? Take a look at what it's doing today.
Yeah.
I know you did a video earlier. It just looks like it's kind of bouncing on that 65.
Yeah, let me bring up the cycle here. There's a turning point on Wednesday that we've kind of been eyeing. So the longer term waves, I mean, we're kind of through September, October, 8.6 months from the high, 9 months from the high. So still kind of want to see if we can get out of this long-term consolidation. But this next minor wave is Wednesday. I'd like to see us kind of put some sort of bullish event above last week's high. And then maybe we got a shot at kind of retesting the 200 up here. It's a little bit hard to see. 7,400. You can see it on features here too. So I think that's the early tone setter this week. Is on the upside is 6,800. We get above there, then we got a good shot at 7,400, maybe into next week.
I like the way you talk about it, the way you present it to Jason. I mean, the way that the overall longer term bandwidth of the lower highs is absolutely real, but in the shorter term look, if we could get the third, within this lower high range, if we could get that third little peak kind of going up, I think we got a shot at through 6,800, which we need.
Right, like the 6,800 kind of insignificant, and when you look at the bigger picture, it's really 7,400 that sticks out. But that's still the first sign that maybe we can pop our head up. And there's a lot there. There's both of those highs from last week are all in the same spot, or pi line, the downtrend line. So I think that's the key on the up. On the downside, I don't think you need to get excited. And, I mean, before we would test 5,800 and bounce. Now every low is, it's shallower. 6,200 people come in and buy. Even last week at 6,300, there was buyers. I'm not really worried too much on the downside. I mean, to like Brendan's point on the alts, his 4-hour cycle's done a good job. So the 4-hour cycle is high up here. If you bought stuff well, come out of it. I was looking at Monero this morning, maybe 0x this morning. where the 4-hour cycle was high late last week. Now we're kind of getting a pullback. Maybe we can get a little bit cheaper tomorrow and buy some of that stuff. But Monero was cheap this morning. Neo on a relative value basis, 0x. So if we were looking to play those alts, maybe one more push down, then we go back to the wood on that stuff.
It just looks like it's slowly losing that selling pressure every time. And it's kind of interesting. I should have brought this up earlier, but this morning, BitMEX, they usually do some pretty good analysis when it comes to markets. Surprisingly so. They do state that it could be false, and they obviously, of course, have their agendas, but like they're pretty big on Bitcoin over anything else. But they came out with a report saying that based on all their calculations and the available data, that they found that ICOs have nearly sold they've pretty much sold all their Ethereum compared to what they raised. So they're pretty much flat right now, where a lot of people were calling that, Ethereum was kind of, all these ICOs were leading that whole down push, right? We saw Ethereum drop so quickly because these ICOs were selling all their USD worth of Ethereum that they initially raised. So now we're kind of seeing that play off where there's nothing to sell. They're already all even now. They've already sold everything. So I think that's kind of interesting, just because that's obvious selling pressure. I mean, there's no way around it. When you see these numbers of how much ICOs have raised last year, and there's no doubt about that. Those projects panicked. We talked about this in that whole drop in Ethereum. They panicked. They need to cover their projects, right? They need to actually build something, pay people, pay themselves. So those are going to be quickest ones to sell, and it seems like they've all sold.
I wonder what their average price was. It would be interesting to know. I'm sure a lot of them sold the lows for the most part.
Expert fund management.
I mean, if you kind of have to, you can probably kind of deduce it, right? If they're all about even now, so they had to have.
I mean, they must have blasted out a lot.
Yeah.
Down here.
But I thought it was pretty interesting, and it kind of makes sense when you see that chart too, right? You're getting that higher low every time, less and less pressure. Buyers are slowly winning out.
Yeah.
Well, that could also be a really good sign too. If all these ICOs have blown out all of their Ethereum, it's like, well, where's that gone? It's probably gone back to the people that spent it in the first place, right? that were in the business of buying Ethereum for the sole purpose of investing in ICOs. And so if that's the case, and the money has flown back to those hands, if they're actually bullish on this, that's that much more in the chamber to then fuel into future ICOs or STOs, if that's the route that we're going. But I think that's a good sign, in that there's a lot more in play in terms of investing and long-term movement. And, as that goes on, it's going to then rebound the Ethereum price. If we see that big, huge push on the ICO front and everyone's scrambling to get Ethereum to buy back into these things, that's a positive, I think.
Yeah. The cycle back the other way. It's true. Yep. Well, I didn't really have anything else on the price.
No, I think that's good. I think it's a good little wrap up. Kind of start the week. It's a Monday anyway, so not a lot of activity. Give it another day. We'll see what sort of news comes up, and always feel free to ask us questions in the Disruptive group. Come check us out. We got a course available, and all that good stuff.
All right, guys.
Till next time.
All right. Talk to you.
Yeah, have a good one.